my name is Sarah Pagan. I work in the Scottish Government procurement team and I'm the lead buyer for this talent attraction and migration service procurement. So I'm very excited to present this to you this morning. So thank you very much for joining. So I hope this supplier event today will be informative and useful for you. As we go through this presentation, I'm sure you will have questions. So as Fran said, just hold off until the live Q&A at the end. Alternatively, you can forward some questions to me on my email address as listed there. The invitation to tender documentation that I mentioned today are still subject to final approval, so they may vary in nature, so just please bear that in mind as we go through. And as STP has already said, the presentation will be shared with you. So today on our agenda, we will run through the talent attraction and migration service provision and inform you as best as possible about the procurement process that we will be following for this requirement. I'll go into further detail regarding the procurement stages involved and indicative timelines for the process. Colin will then discuss and provide an overview of the specification of requirement and the policy background. So we're really keen today to promote supplier collaboration and communication. So please do sign up to STP's bespoke tendering and networking session, which will be coming up in the next few weeks. STP will cover this in finer detail later this morning. So a quick note on the role of procurement. So we are the main point of contact for any communication from service providers from now until contract award stage. We prepare all invitation to tender documentation and the contract for signature. We'll manage the whole process and any clarifications or questions received from suppliers. We ensure that the procurement process is open, transparent and handled in line with Scottish procurement legislation, so all bidders are treated fairly and equally. We're really required to deliver value for money through all of our contracts, so we do aim to spend public funds very efficiently. We also ask bidders to consider Scottish Government's other procurement policy initiatives to benefit communities and citizens of Scotland. So just a quick overview there. And now on to the important information regarding the procurement process. So a prior information notice was released to the market in December for this service, so thank you very much to those who did note interest. At the moment, we are in the process of drafting the ITT documentation. So we can now inform you that the process and the procurement route that we will be using for the requirement will be the open procedure. This is for us to ensure maximum participation from the market and supply chains, but also allow collaboration across different suppliers. So we're seeking a single lead service provider to wholly manage and deliver the full service requirement. This is slightly different to what was issued on the original PIN, but hopefully you will have seen the additional note that was updated. So we're now seeking that single lead service provider. So it might be that you may not have the capacity as a single lead service provider to deliver the service in full. So you might be required to engage with subcontractors or delivery partners who do possess that appropriate skill set. The contract duration for the term is 3 years and will be estimated at a budget of 3.6 million, exclusive of VAT, over the total 3-year contract period. Please note that the contract notice will be published on Public Contract Scotland advertising portal and on Find a Tender service. So please register on PCS if you haven't already done so. PCS tender again will be another advertising portal which we use to publish tender documentation. So this is where you'll download your ITT docs and you'll also upload your tender responses. So you'll have to ensure you're registered to that as well. And it is worth noting that we publish on our contract notices the project and ITT codes, which easily allow you to search for the ITT documentation on PCS tender. In terms of procurement timescales, the requirement will be advertised in April 23 with a tender period of 7 weeks. The Scottish Government internal evaluation process will take place in May with an anticipated contract start date in July 23. And our evaluation will be based on the MEET criteria, so most economically advantageous tender, and our ratio for scoring this procurement will be set at 80% quality and 20% price. And if you do require more details on the evaluation criteria or guidance, these are all provided within the ITT pack on PCST. And alongside the submission of a lead service provider's bid, the single procurement document or SPD must also be uploaded on PCST, which I'm sure you'll be aware of. This provides SG with company information. It allows us to ask details on level of insurance, financial standing, and financial ratios, to name a few. And please note for this requirement that if you are using subcontractors, you will be required to complete an SPD as well for them, and it must be uploaded as part of the leads submission. So the ITT pack, it will comprise several documents. I won't go into everything today, but I can highlight a few of the kind of high level main requirements that we'll be including in the pack. So firstly, you'll find an instructions to tenderers document, which will provide guidance on how to bid and Scottish procurement process. The model services contract includes a number of schedules. To name a few, we'll have the specification of requirement there in full detail, management arrangements for the service, a schedule highlighting any approved subcontractors, and 2 other schedules for data protection and cybersecurity requirements. The evaluation and award criteria document will detail a number of technical questions which you must respond to. This document will also include procurement policy questions that relate to climate emergency and sustainability, fair work, and community benefits. So we ask you to consider all of these technical questions in great depth, as these will be scored questions with an 80% weighting attached. This document also details the scoring methodology that SG evaluators will use to independently score your bids. There'll be a pricing schedule, which will be contained within a separate Microsoft Excel document. Please note all of our documents as well are caveated by SG terms and conditions for services. So as I said earlier, I do hope that you're able to join this networking session. SDP will highlight this later today. So just await further detail from them via email regarding date and time. But that is a really good opportunity for you to network, collaborate, and just build links with interested parties and other subcontractors who might have that knowledge that you might not have in-house. If you do have any procurement questions, please do get in touch with me. And if you're interested in sharing your contact details with anybody, any other delegates attending today, please let me know. And now I will hand over to Colin, who will discuss the policy background and specification for the requirement in more detail.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for coming along. So I'm Colin Carroll. I'm the team leader at the Citizens' Rights team, and I'm the kind of project manager for delivering the talent attraction and migration service. Just by way of background, in a previous life, I worked for 9 years with the Refugee Legal Centre, providing immigration advice to asylum seekers and refugees. So what I want to do this morning is just explain a bit of our policy background, why we're delivering this service, what ministers are thinking, why they want this service to be delivered. I'll explain the two groups of users who use the service, and then I want to talk a bit more about the outcomes that we want the service to deliver for users, what the outputs of the service are. And then finally, I'll go through some of the things that we're looking for in a supplier. So yeah, to start with the policy background, why are we delivering a talent attraction and migration service? Well, two big drivers for this. The first is economic. We know that there are a huge number of vacancies in the Scottish economy and the UK economy. The Office for National Statistics said that between November and January this year, there were over 1,134,000 vacancies across the UK. Despite that, Scotland is seeing record numbers of people in employment. In fact, in November, we had our highest recorded number of people, or percentage of the workforce in employment. So this has been exacerbated by the ending of free movement. So we really need people to come and join our economy, contribute to our communities, and strengthen our public services. But that's not the only driving factors behind the development of the service. We have demographic challenges. So Scotland's population is higher than it's ever been. It's at 4.6 million. But every year there are more deaths than births. And the shortfall between the two is made up by immigration. But our population is growing more slowly than any of the other nations in the UK. And in fact, from 2033, our population is predicted to decline. Moreover, the big challenge facing Scotland is an aging population with a worsening dependency ratio. So that's more people in retirement than people in work, or that ratio getting worse. So our ministers are really concerned about this. You know, we need to have a sufficient tax base to raise revenue, and we need a sufficient workforce to care for our elderly population. So yeah, what is the Scottish Government doing about these challenges? Well, 2 years ago, we published our first population strategy. And it's based on 4 pillars. So there's 4 big work streams within there that we're using to frame our response to this challenge. We're trying to create a family-friendly nation where people can people can have the children that they want to have. We want to have a healthy living society where people's working lives are maximised to the full. We want to make sure Scotland is attractive and welcoming to people who want to come here, and we want to have a more balanced population. So not just that aging demographic ratio I mentioned, but also a more balanced geographical population throughout the whole of Scotland. So this particular project, the Talent Attraction Migration Service, sits within that attractive and welcoming pillar of our population strategy. And that led Scottish Government to make a commitment last year in our programme for government to launch the service next year. The programme for government, for those of you who don't know, is our list of actions that we're going to take over the next year. So who's going to use this service and what's it going to do? Well, excuse me. We envisage 2 groups of users. The first will be employers based in Scotland. And that can be any employer from public sector, private sector, or the third sector. We expect it will be used by employers from small and medium-sized enterprises, and we're particularly thinking about small employers who just don't have the resources or the time to navigate the immigration system. They might have the skills gaps, but they just don't have the experience of using or the ability to use the immigration system. Or it may be an employer who's never really considered it as a solution to their needs. The second group of users will be people who are moving to Scotland or those that have just moved here. So we know that for people to stay in Scotland, that reception period, that those first few months when they arrive here, that has to go really well. They have to have a smooth landing. They have to successfully integrate in those first few months. So what outcomes are we seeking to achieve? What's going to be the difference between someone who's used the service and someone who's not used the service? Where are we going to add value? Well, we expect employers, after they've used the service, that they'll be able to effectively and efficiently use the immigration system to help meet their skills and labour needs. So we're not expecting this to be a silver bullet to eliminate all those skills and labour needs, but it'll just be one tool. Immigration will just be one tool in the employer's box to help meet those needs. Secondly, individuals, people will be able to move to Scotland and settle into their communities easily and successfully. And we hope that that will be through the provision of good quality information and advice. And finally, we want all of this to be wrapped up in a single digital platform that employers and people can use easily. So just turning to the outputs of the service. So when I say outputs, these are the things that we expect you to deliver. These will be the tangible services, products that the service is going to produce. So the first is going to be the immigration support for employers. And you'll have seen in the prior information notice our ideas about how we can deliver that support to employers. So we're thinking we want a 3-tier system. And the first tier will be a universal offer, which anyone can access, and it will entail the provision of good quality information on the website, on the digital platform. And it'll explain to employers how they can use the immigration system. It'll explain various routes, immigration routes that are available to them, and it'll explain what they need to do to begin the process of getting a sponsorship license, for example. So that's tier 1. Hopefully that will meet some employers' needs. The second tier of support will be a one-to-many service. Some of you may be aware of the Immigration and Visa Support Service that's currently provided through Talent Scotland. That service will stop running at the end of September this year, and we hope to integrate it into this service. So that one-to-many, it may be a subscription service that employers who are actively seeking to bring people in can sign up to, and it will entail more detailed information. So it could be newsletters, blogs, access to webinars, tutorials. It could be Q&As delivered on short social media content, but it'll be providing that more detailed information, and we hope it will be sort of conveyed in a variety of media. And again, we expect and hope that many employers' needs will be met through those 2 tiers, but the immigration lawyers on the call, We know that the immigration system is complicated, and users will have bespoke individual circumstances and challenges, and they'll need that tier 3 support, which we hope will be one-to-one advice. And this is something that the Talent Scotland provision currently doesn't provide. So we hope that you will be able to deliver good quality one-to-one advice. We expect it to entail the user providing in advance a short description of the problem or challenge, and then a consultation, possibly half an hour or an hour's consultation, and then you will advise the user on their options of a way forward. Now, the service will not provide ongoing legal representation and advocacy. At this stage, it will just be the provision of the advice. Okay, so moving on to reception support, the next output will be this support for people who are moving to Scotland or people who've just landed here. And again, this will be delivered through good quality information on the website. And but also we expect users to be able to access one-to-one advice. And this will be information about anything that people need to successfully settle here. We know that those first 6 months are really crucial, but people may need help with a variety of things. For example, sorting out national insurance number, opening a bank account, understanding the education system in Scotland, getting kids into the right school. They may have queries around healthcare, employment rights. Could be a whole range of things. There may be queries about getting skills recognised, and there might be softer avenues of support. English language lessons for family members, access to faith and religious groups. How does childcare provision work in Scotland? And we want to make sure that this service is for the main mover, the person moving to Scotland, but also their dependents and their family members, because we know that if the family coming with the main applicant aren't happy, they won't stay. And the final output that we'll ask you to deliver is a single digital platform. So we want to have a website that is accessible, that fits in with our Brand Scotland image, that is accessible on a mobile device. We know that most websites now are accessed through mobile devices, but we'll be looking to you to provide innovative functions on the website. So we hope suppliers will come forward with innovative ideas about how users can access the service through the digital platform. So that may be a sort of self-rostering advice booking system on the website. You may want to put forward ideas about having a chat function on the website, but we'll be looking for you to give us something that is fit for this day and age where people's lives are really busy and people interact with a lot of services digitally. The digital platform must meet our Digital Scotland service standards. So for those of you who are not familiar with that, I've just popped a link to it in the chat, and they're a list of standards around accessibility and usability, and making sure that this platform is fit for purpose. Yeah, so to give you a bit more of an idea of some of the services that we're hoping to deliver, there's quite a few, we've got quite a few competitors out there already. I'm going to try and share hyperlinks. I don't know, have they? No, it's not come through as a hyperlink. But yeah, there's a lot going on already. And we are in a kind of global competition. Oh, sorry, my hyperlinks don't seem to be working. I'll send them out after the meeting. Yeah, some of you may have seen the attraction campaign launched by Western Australia recently. So yeah, we've got we want to be competing with some of the best in the world, but I'll let you see those links after the meeting, and it can give you an idea of what some of our competitors are doing, and what we would expect you to be putting forward in your proposals. Okay, so just to give you a bit more idea of what we're looking for when you put forward your bids. So obviously we're looking for a provider or a consortium that has good knowledge of the UK's immigration system. I mean, that's key, goes without saying. But we also need a provider who understands the needs of people that are moving to Scotland and what the landscape is like here, what services are available in Scotland for people who are moving here. And finally, we need a provider who can design, build, and maintain the digital platform. So drilling down into a bit more detail, so while we expect you to have good knowledge of the UK's immigration system, that that on its own isn't enough. What we want you to do is to be able to translate that information accurately to an audience who's not specialist, and that need to understand it. So that's quite a refined skill, translating the complexity into plain English to an audience that doesn't have much time and needs to move quickly, but keeping that information accurate. So that will be a key skill that we're looking for. Another one is the ability to deliver advice clearly and accurately. So users, when they come away from the service, once they've had advice from you, they must know what their options are and understand exactly what they can and can't do, and what their next steps are. As I touched on, we'd like to see an innovative provider that can use a variety of communication technologies. So yeah, when I used to give immigration advice, it was sitting in a room with a pen and a notepad and taking instructions face to face. The world's moved on. So can you give advice digitally? Can you use a variety of platforms, Google Meet, Teams, WhatsApp, telephone? There may be other ways of doing it. So yeah, we're quite interested in hearing from providers who've got who are quite comfortable using tech. And then we're going to need a provider who is agile and can innovate and can adapt services. The immigration rules are updated twice a year, but things move faster than that in the world of immigration. Case law changes, policy changes, new routes are opened, routes are closed. We see the external world changes. I mean, if you look at how the immigration rules have changed in the last couple of years, BNO routes, for example. but also, the economy changes. So we want to be able to work with a provider who we can come to and say, look, policy has changed, a new route has opened. Can you set up a webinar in 3 weeks' time to meet this need? Can you update the website to provide information on this particular route? So we're looking for that agility and a provider that can move quickly. Yeah, and finally, we want a provider that understands the user's journey. So we are really keen not to build a service that meets the Scottish Government's needs. It's not a service that's going to meet your needs. It's going to be a service that meets the needs of users. And we really want to keep that at the forefront. They have to be, they're the most important piece of the puzzle. Okay, I'm going to pause there, and I think we will be ready for questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Colin.